The membership numbers, the membership growth, I'm going to give us a quick look at some early data from the survey that a lot of people filled in April, May. I'm going to talk about the funding success we had, and I'm going to try and link that to what we've just learned in various ways. So here is a graph of membership numbers. This is data as at the 9th of October, so slightly out of date at this point. This is cumulative membership. So this is not the people who join and leave. This is the people who are still in from the point at which they joined. So you can see we've grown. And the last time we did a survey was in 2002, when there were about 300 members. So you can see that on that graph, it says there were sort of about 200 members in 2002. So that's an indication of the attrition rate that prisons have. And we're now at 1,000-ish members, 1,100. So we thought it was time to do another survey. Here, I'm going to put up a very busy table and give you a bit of time to read. Okay? So some things to notice about this table, we are very women dominated, and that has not changed at all. Quite interesting. The educational balance has also changed very little, despite the fact that we've got 3 times as many people in. We seem to have picked up a lot of people with more experience. There's been a drop in fixed term contracts present in the membership. Very interesting piece of data, which we don't really know how to interpret at this point, but we haven't finished the analysis. There's a lot of qualitative data we haven't been through yet. It's in progress. So this is a picture of a relatively homogeneous group. Very white, very feminine, female. It's very middle-aged. It's not have a religion. It's heterosexual, it's able-bodied. We need to make sure we're not putting people who don't fit into that category off. And that's a piece of work that the committee is committed to doing. We want to make sure that we welcome, include, engage and support anyone from any of these groups, which is going to be really interesting. Satisfying. I'm going to show another big, busy slide up on the one part of the slide and give you some time to read it again.
80 on the top of the slide.
We don't know. We don't know how many were in the earlier.
Sorry, how many out of 1,000 membership? How many people replied?
180.
Okay, so effectively that data comes from 18% of the membership. Okay. Thanks.
All right, so I'm going to start talking over this because otherwise it's just an enormous amount of detail. The first 3 job titles up there, those are what we would consider squarely PRISM job titles. And that is about 64% of the people who answered, which means that 30% of the people, 36% of the people who answered don't fit the definition of PRISM that we have on the website. Which is really interesting. What you're doing here. So, on the one hand, for example, the research development officer and manager, that's clearly a very closely allied profession. Lots of prisms do that at least a chunk of the time. And for that matter, the definition of a prism is super blurry on like in every single direction. So it's completely normal that we're picking up people who are ops managers because that overlaps with what we do. Research development managers, that overlap with what we do. But I also want to there's a couple of other things that may well be going on here, is that for a start, some of these people may have been prisms, but are not anymore, or they want to be prisms, so they're finding out what's happening. So there are some interesting questions here about careers. Where are we going? Where are we coming from? There's also the fact that I've spoken to people who, for example, are in the knowledge exchange space who say, I like your messaging. I like the messaging that says you're not getting enough support, you're isolated, you're on fixed term contracts. Other people are not saying that sort of thing. So we're saying it, so you're in. So it's not that you're a PRISM, it's that the PRISM roles are relevant to you. And then the other thing that we're possibly wondering about is that it's free to be here. It's not free to join ARMA. It's not free in the UK. And at the current state of academia, that's important. And that means we need to think about that. Certainly as an organisation at the moment, we have a commitment to stay free. But that means we also need to make a commitment to find some cash from somewhere to make sure that it can stay free, because it's not free to print. So the presence of 36% non-PRISMs in the PRISM network is not a problem to be solved, right? We're not trying to change this. PRISM definition is blurry, PRISMs are generalists, so there's going to be lots of people in research performing organisations who do PRISMy things under PRISMy circumstances and experience PRISMy challenges. So we're really glad that the resources that we're developing are relevant and are helping, and that you show that with your membership. That's brilliant. So a bit of qualitative data. Which was not surprising to me at all. I don't think I particularly want to comment on any of that, because we've got a lot more information coming from all the hugely generous comments that people brought in. People read loads on all of these things. There's more detail in there. But I mean, this is not surprising, any of it. So it's quite relief to realise that, you know, the committee is apparently representative, because these are the things that we talk about. Right, I'm going to pivot onto something that is going to help. And that is the funding success that the PRISM network has had this year jointly with ARMA to get funding out of Research England for £4.4 million over 4 years for a project called Research Professional Futures, which will be starting in January. So this is not a project about PRISMs, it's a project about research professionals, which is a new term that we came up with to mean everybody who in professional services who supports research end to end. So that means, I suppose, researcher, developers at one end, research development certainly, right the way through to impact and K at the other end. So current analysis is there's about 40 roles in there. I'm sure we've missed some. It stretches into the library a little bit. It certainly stretches into central teams. ARMA cover all of these roles basically, and some of them sort of slightly outside, I suppose. And we've got, what I really liked about this project is we're sort of doing, it's flipped. The leadership is all professional services, and we have some academics working for us. So we've sort of contracted the research on research group at the University of Oxford, and also Research Consulting Limited to do some data analysis. Well, data gathering and data analysis. These are the work packages. So if you read this with a PRISM eye, this means there is going to be a national PRISM audit as part of the national audit of RP roles. There is going to be the development of a shared vision for RP roles, which will include something, at least something that's relevant for PRISMs. There is going to be a national PRISM competency framework, including job descriptions and hiring guides and toolkits and so on. You can tell this is designed by professional services people. It's also super practical, right? No concordats. There is a chunk of pilot funding, which is undefined at this point. And then there's going to be a research culture campaign. Rika is leading that work package, unsurprisingly. So, and again, that's going to be creating a practical implementation package for how do we deal with this us and them issue, which goes both ways. And we did a lot of talking in the development of all of this about allies and engaging not just with allies, but with skeptics. So that's going to be fun. Right, that's all I've got to say. Have we got time for questions? We can move on to that. I just want to say, before I completely stop, I just want to say thank you to the committee in particular. We have done so much work this year, so much more work than we've done in previous years. And it's so good. What they're doing is so good. And I just want to say thank you to all of them, particularly the people who put this conference together. I'm so proud of what we're doing.
I think again, we've got time for one question in the room or online.
Got an online question.
We can start online this time.
Okay, these work packages sound brilliant. Would you be able to share the 40 different roles, the skills / qualifications needed / that are helpful to be in those roles?
At this, I could certainly share a list of the roles that we have identified. That certainly we want to do that fairly soon because we know we've missed some, right? At this point, we don't have the other data, but we will have that by the end of the program. That's the goal anyway. Yeah, Sam?
Yeah, so given that everything is so diverse, so I was effectively made a PRISM because they didn't know where else to put me.
That's a new one.
Yes, because I don't fit with any of the other professions in my team. So given that they are so diverse, how then can you come up with a competency framework that works for everyone, given that some of the roles that are so, even within the team I work in, everyone that kind of fits in that PRISM profession is so different in what they do?
Yeah, that's a really good question. We haven't at this point decided how many competency frameworks there will be. I think we've probably picked out the idea of there being a single overarching research professional competency framework, because there's not going to be a huge amount relevant from impact that's also relevant to research and development. I'm probably lying.
I think relational skills will come across
Relational skills will be everywhere.
of research professionals.
Yes.
So there might be like a core and then a modular aspect of adding different bits of the framework
Yeah.
into something that covers most systems.
So
So can I just follow up because I want to link in with something that Marie said, which is that yes, there is an inherent challenge here that these roles are not necessarily the same, and particularly if you've got administrative reasons for being called a PRISM, that's not helpful because that's not actually a competency-based definition, that's an admin-based definition. But one of the key words that we talked about a lot when we were putting all of this was the word porosity, as in porosity between all of these roles. Very few of these roles have a career ladder. They have a step stool and maybe a step ladder. And then you're at the top of the step ladder thinking, I want to be over there. And how'd you get there? Or there are no roles around me, I've got to suddenly jump over there. And that's what Marie was getting at with this mosaic career. How are you going to get across the gap? And so the advantage to thinking about RP roles as a whole is that in theory, it'll help us identify who moves sideways and diagonally and what enables them to do that. So we can start spotting some of these links that I think are quite hidden at the moment, but they're probably not unique. Do we have time for another one or would you need to stop?
Okay, one last quick one.
I was really interested in the role descriptions, but one of the things that I saw immediately is that some of them overlap quite a bit.
Yeah.
So what is your plan for sort of identifying ones that are very similar? So for me, partnership manager and research, the business development roles, they're very similar. But I'm a partnership manager and I also do KE, so how are you going to manage that?
I don't know. At this point, I don't. But I think this is where having the PRISM network so corely involved, that's terrible English, sorry, involved at the core of this piece of work is essential because we do a little bit of all of these things. So PRISMs are going to be a really, really good example of just how complicated it gets. But we live this complexity all the time, so we know. So that's a bit helpful. I mean, it's very much the opposite end of the game from where I'm coming from, where everybody in theory does one role or only a small number of it. So, yeah, I don't know. We might find out. Goodbye.